Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of Close to the Wall. My name is Omar Bartra. I'll be your host today, and I'm here with.
Ethan Quintero.
Kennedy Moore.
And Quentin Moreno.
So we got some good sports news here today in the world of Texas State sports, but let's start out with the good news. Volleyball has started out their season 8-1, which is really good. We're playing really well. Our only loss is to UTEP, and we won the first game in that series. Anyone have any words on volleyball?
They're playing really well, obviously. The chemistry is a great thing to note, and I think that's due to the fact that our head coaching transition wasn't rough. We just kind of handed the reins over to our assistant coach from last year, who is now the head coach. Obviously, forgive me, I can't remember his name off the top of my head. But they're playing outstanding, and they got a lot of older players that are bringing that culture that they had from the previous coach. What was her name? She was here forever.
Oh, I need to look it up right now.
Whatever her name was. Forgive me. She's like a legend at Texas State, but she built this culture, and it hasn't slowed down at all. It's just accelerated, and it's looking like a very, very bright season.
I completely agree. I think their last game against ULM, where they swept them, 25-14, 13-12 in the first three. I think that was an impressive game. Them being 8-1 and then 3-0 in the Sun Belt speaks a lot to their performance this year. And I think it shows from the coaching staff to the players. I think they're all coming together and putting together a great team this year.
Karen Chisholm is who you're thinking about. Chisholm.
Yeah, forgive me. Sorry, Kennedy, go ahead.
Yeah, I agree. This team is really dominant. They have a lot of active players involved, such as Emily DeWatt, Janelle Fitzgerald, Tierney Scott. They also have Kaylin Buchner. So these players is really the reason why this team is 8-1 right now. I'll report it when they went against UTEP and they had strong kills. Like, they're so dominant and they're active and they know how to get around the floor. So
shout out to Janelle Fitzgerald. She's the leading kills. She has the most kills on the team by far. So shout out to her.
I was talking to Connor McKinnon, who's kind of our resident volleyball guy, and he's, he reports, he goes to all the practices, and he was liking how the team is coming together. They're really healthy this year, and the only inconsistencies this year is, of course, due to COVID. The team is healthy, which is new because we had some injuries last year and some, inconsistencies in and out. But again, the inconsistencies when we're healthy come from the outside world because the UT Arlington series has been postponed for now. Do we have any news or status as to whether that's going to be, when those games are going to be played, or if we're going to play Louisiana on the 9th still, or if that's going to get postponed as well?
I haven't seen any articles about whether or not that series is going to be played eventually. I do know we're moving on with the season, though. We're playing Lafayette, the Raging Cajuns, October 9th. We have one at 11, one at 6, and then we play them again October 10th. So that's, obviously the season's going to move forward, but I have no idea what's going to happen with UT Arlington.
yeah, I'm looking forward to that game as well because they're undefeated, and I really want to see how the Bobcats play against them because it's going to be strong competition.
Absolutely. And last week we had some pretty bad competition against ULM, who was I don't think they'd won a game, and they had gotten swept by a team that we had swept earlier in the season. So it'll be nice to see us actually go against a team that has the ability to dominate like we do.
So now we've given volleyball their credit, which they very much deserve. Let's move on to our Texas State football team, who we had very high I see everyone's kind of sitting back in their chair the second I bring it up. We had very high hopes for them coming into the season. We had a whole episode about our new guys who were going to come in and hopefully be able to put a new spin on the program. And Brady McBride's doing good. In the most recent game against Boston College, which we lost by 3, Brady McBride did, outthrow their. He had more passing yards than their quarterback on less attempts and less completions. So he was more accurate and he was throwing farther. But I don't know. Our team is just struggling to find a foothold this year so far.
It's weird. Going into this game, I thought their biggest difficulty would be stopping the passing game. But oddly, it was the running game where they had 2 touchdowns and everybody compiled together for over 70 yards, something like that, which isn't a lot, but usually we hold our teams to below like 50 yards a carry, and it's the passing game that kills our defense. But it was opposite this game, which completely threw me off guard. And like you said, Brady McBride, I thought he played a good game. So honestly, I don't think the record displays how talented our team is. I think we could very well be 3-1, maybe even 4-0 because we played really close games, bunch of overtime games.
Mhm.
I completely agree with what you're saying. Despite us being 1-3 overall for so far in the season, all those losses have come by single possession. So I think that says a lot to the way Coach Bavidal has improved on the team scoring. I think defensively we're looking a little weak, and maybe there are some improvements that need to be made there, just in stopping the running game, just like you were saying. But yeah, I mean that loss to Boston College via the field goal, that was heartbreaking, and especially on the road too. It looked like they were doing really good out there with McBride. I think so far this season he's averaging a pass completion of 58.8%. So, and then Vitt as well, also 65.6. So the quarterback situation still kind of switching between the two, but we're looking good so far offensively. I think there just needs to be a couple changes that need to be made defensively.
I think our issue defensively is consistency, because we either hold a team to a 3 and out, or we hold them to 1 or 2 first downs per possession, and then we'll give up a big play and let them score. Because we had more overall yards than their team. We had more first downs than their team, but they still outscored us there at the end. We are giving up plays in the wrong times. We are giving up the big plays when we need to be consistent. And only, we can give a little bit here, we can give them a little bit of footing, but we can't give up these big plays at once.
Yeah, I agreed. And I think McBride is just getting back into the swing of things because he was out during those 2 games against ULM and UTSA. And I think he's just trying to become back the leader of the team and get those guys going. The receivers, the chemistry got to get back flowing. But I think in the next game, if they start strong and finish harder, I feel like they'll be unstoppable because, like someone mentioned, I think Quentin, you did, they lost. Every time they lose, it's within 1 touchdown. So it's not that they're not able to compete. It's just they have to finish really strong. And against Troy next week, they lost against BWY 47-7. So I'll look at that as competition. As confidence to go into the next game.
Yeah, we have 2 Sun Belt games coming up. We play Troy, like you said, and the week after we play South Alabama. So those games are gonna be very important for us to see where we are in the standings in our division. Because UTSA, they're not in our conference. We played a very close game with them. St. Mary's University is very close games all around, especially except for the ULM game, which we trampled over. We're not going to talk about that one. We need to look forward and try to bring our record back to a good even, because Troy is 1-1. They've only played 2 games so far. So if we can send them under 500 and start to work our way back to our predictions, so we don't look the Claus the Wall team from last year doesn't look too hopeful. If we can get back to our predictions, we'll be in a good spot.
And we can't forget this Boston College game. I didn't realize that Danny McBride was sacked 5 times.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Wow.
It's not very good offensive line. I don't want to call them out, but that could also potentially be a reason we've lost 3 out of 4 games as well. And we can't really find a consistent running game. We keep going through a bunch of backs. Like we haven't found that one guy that's our consistent rusher. And I think that could help out a lot, especially in the play action game.
Yeah.
But last year we talked about, we had a debate between who you think should start, Brady McBride or Mr. Vitt. So who do y'all think should get the starting spot?
I'll say McBride because I feel like he's more consistent than Vitt, in my opinion. I feel like he's capable of bringing the Bobcats farther than Vitt will.
Yeah, I think the quarterback situation is always kind of a touchy subject. It makes its way across like multiple teams, not just ours. It really just depends. I think with McBride, I think more playing time, more games under it. I think getting, like you said, getting back in that rhythm, getting used to the play action. I think that's all going to make a difference. And I think it's too early, don't you think? Maybe too early in the season to kind of know for sure which one is the quarterback of this year. I would hope it'd be McBride, but I guess we'll find out on our next game against Troy, which is what is it, October 10th?
Um,
Yes.
yes.
I believe so. Yeah,
Yes.
October 10th. So
I personally am partial to Tyler Vitt. I think his rushing game is a big asset to have. He's a very good scrambler, and he's very accurate. I mean, he had in the ULM game, he had 260 yards on 14 attempts, or 14 completions, which is incredible. Like that's very, very good efficiency for a guy that only threw 21 passes to have 260 yards passing and 100 yards rushing. He's more dynamic than Brady McBride, but Brady McBride's more consistent. I think Tyler Vitt has more of a consistency or not consistency, but more of a tendency to kind of explode.
I can agree with that, and I think both quarterbacks are playing really well, and that can be attributed to Coach Spav finally being in the quarterback room as well as calling the plays for the first time in his career at Texas State. Last week, I was the only one arguing for Vitt, not really because I like Vitt, because last year was such a, for lack of a better word, terrible year for him. But I would like to see McBride start a few more games in a row and try, like you said, get into that rhythm. Because if he can build that rhythm and become a better quarterback, I think he has the potential to do that. But Omar, you're completely right. Vitt he has a tendency to explode, but he also has a tendency to implode.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to choose which, the lesser of two evils.
yeah, and I guess we'll find out against Troy, who offensively haven't been doing too great this season. I know they're only 1-1 with 2 games being played, but they're only averaging about 4.6 yards per play, so which is the worst in the conference so far. So I think if there is any test to see the quarterback position who's going to show out, I think Troy will definitely be a game that we can look forward to seeing that.
I agree.
So let's keep it on football. We'll move to a different team. We need to talk about the San Marcos High School Rattlers and the Hail Mary play right there at the end of the fourth quarter after giving up a touchdown late. That bomb that was thrown by his name is blanking me right now.
Isaiah
DeLeon, because he's on the basketball team too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So was his brother.
I knew his. I had his name in my head. I couldn't remember it, but that pass was gorgeous.
Oh yeah, it was a beautiful pass.
Yeah.
It was a beautiful play.
Yeah.
The way he moved up on the left side of the pocket.
Mm-hmm.
Jude's play-by-play was, I was just listening to it and I could see what was happening, and his energy is so powerful. I love Jude. He's phenomenal at play-by-play.
Jude, when he commentates a big play like that and he just kind of marches on with his words and pushes forward, like he loses himself in a sentence, but he finds it. It's so good. It was such a great call. And San Marcos High School used that play for their own, clip on their Instagram. They took Jude's play-by-play and left it on there. I'm so happy for him. He called that really well.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree. That Hail Mary pass was amazing. San Marcos High School really needed that because they lost against New Braunfels the week before, and I could tell they were really down about that. I feel like that win against Lockhart really boosted their confidence and their motivation. And sometimes teams got to lose to know how to win. And moments like that with the Hail Mary shows the type of team they're capable of being in this league. So I would say they could go really far if they just continue to dominate these receivers, Cannon Webb, Ryan Hicks, Nathan Henry. They have talented receivers, so they need to use them.
A big question is, how are they going to fare against Westlake? Because Westlake is an incredible program up in Austin. Like they're very, very good. They're 2-0 this year. They beat Clemens 53-7, and they beat Midway from Waco. They beat Midway 56-0. So they've given up 1 touchdown so far and put up 109 points in the first 2 games of the season. And they play San Marcos High School this week. So we'll see how, or not this week, I'm sorry, on the 16th, so next week. We'll see how it turns out for them. And they're playing at the Rattler Stadium, however. So they do have a little bit of, home court as much as that can get you against one of the best teams in the state.
What I want to know is, I don't know if you have the answer to this, Omar, but do you know if the quarterback at Westlake is a mobile quarterback?
I can read a scouting report really quick, but we'd have to fill some time.
Because that is killing San Marcos. Both games that they've played, the first quarterback, he had a field day running the ball, and then Edwards Jr. at Lockhart. He only threw 9 balls for a total of 31 yards,
Jesus.
but he ran 14 times for 139 yards. It's an average of 9.9 yards a carry and 2 touchdowns. So their defensive line cannot contain mobile quarterbacks. So if Westlake has a guy that can run out of the pocket and make plays, they might be in trouble because their secondary is doing a pretty good job.
So it looks like they are in trouble then, because Cade Klubnik, I hope I'm saying that right. Not only did he carry for 130 yards with an average of 9.2 yards per carry, he also threw for 443 yards on 76% this season. This isn't over his last game. He's oh my God, it's ridiculous. 31 attempts, 443 yards, averaging 15 yards per throw, 5 touchdowns, and he's also rushed for 130 yards with 9.2 yards per carry. So this kid just seems like a monster, to be honest.
Yeah.
Wow, no kidding. Yeah, I guess there's a reason they're ranked 9th in the state and I guess 26th nationally. That they're not messing around over there at
They're
Westlake.
not messing around over there. Wow.
Yeah,
And they got
the Rattlers.
they got this receiver, Jaden Greathouse, who's got 130 yards on 10 catches as well. He's got 2 touchdowns so far. So
It's gonna
they
be
got
a handful for Cannon Webb on the other side of the ball.
They got a good team. If San Marcos can pull something off here, it'll be a great story.
It's probably going to have to be a high-scoring game.
It's
because
gonna have to
Go
be a
ahead.
brawl. It's gonna have to be a brawl.
it's going to be a shootout. It's going to look like Kansas City versus anybody else who plays Kansas City. Because
Yeah.
we can't forget about Kenai Guidry on San Marcos. He's been running the ball like a madman.
Yeah,
he
he
had
was doing
198
really
yards last
well.
game. He's phenomenal. To me, he's the MVP of the season. Isaiah De Leon is a great quarterback, but he's young. He has a couple young quarterback mistakes every once in a while, especially with accuracy.
Mhm.
But Kenai Guidry has been that rock that they can just we need 8 yards. Who are we going to?
I mean,
Just hand it to Kenai. Just up the middle.
230 yards per game is no joke.
Oh yeah, he's off the hook, and I love the
Really
kid.
good.
He's phenomenal. He's only a junior too, so thankfully we have him for another year.
Mhm.
But it's probably going to be we're going to be handing the ball off a lot, and Westlake's going to be just letting that quarterback make plays. So
Yeah.
hopefully our defense can contain him at least and make them beat us by throwing the ball.
Both teams will definitely get some additions to their highlight reel.
Hopefully. And we're not
I
even talking
agree.
about how good Westlake's defense is.
Yeah. They're an elite program. Man. We will see how good we can stack up. Because I mean, Isaiah De Leon's young. He's a sophomore.
Mhm.
We'll see how he can deal with the bright lights of a team like Westlake with him starting against the number 9 team in the state. You said 26 in the country, right? We'll see how he fares against the highest competition.
I got faith in the Rattlers. I feel like they're going to bring home the win. And Isaiah De Leon, he's only a sophomore. So I believe this game will really test him because this can only determine what the future will be like for San Marcos High School. So great players perform under pressure. And I really want to see how this turns out.
I hope you're right.
Has anybody interviewed De Leon? Is his primary sport football or basketball?
I haven't gotten a chance to go to practice yet this season.
Yeah, I'm waiting for
wish I
San
could.
Marcos. I'm waiting for basketball. I'm waiting for basketball to go up to a practice. I really want to get some interviews in with the high school dudes.
He's a phenomenal athlete. I remember watching him play basketball last year, and I thought he didn't play football at all, but it comes out and he went to starting spot over a couple seniors, I think, that were
Yeah.
also playing quarterback.
Yeah.
So,
all those young basketball players at San Marcos are playing football now, I guess too.
they got some phenomenal young talent. And I don't know how many games y'all watched last season, but they didn't win many. I'm pretty sure they only won 1 game all season last year.
Really?
And it was a pretty rough season. They had some good players, like individual players, but they could just never find a way to win the game. Kind of like the Cowboys, but we'll talk about that later.
We'll get to
But
that.
there were a lot of close games too, where it looked like they were, playing heads and shoulders above what they should be playing, and then they just kind of let it slip through their fingers. But this new coach, he came in with a new culture, and he's got some new guys in starting positions like Isaiah De Leon, and it looks like a completely different team. They look a lot more disciplined. They look a lot more run heavy, which I thought they were missing last year. And I'm very excited about what the future holds for San Marcos High School.
Yeah, I agree, Ethan, because I feel like John Walsh has transformed this team into something new. And you can tell that the players trust him and they trust the process. And honestly, if you have players that trust you and what you're trying to build, I feel like you can take them anywhere.
It's all about coaching.
So did the Cowboys in the NFL get talked about in last week's episode?
No, last week we spent a lot of time talking about the NBA Finals and kind of previewing it because I think only game 1 had been played at that point.
Yeah. So on to the Cowboys, and I am surrounded on the panel by 3 Cowboys fans here right now. Let's hear some opinions about the season so far.
Where do we begin? I mean, goodness, it's been a rough start to the season, that's for sure. I think we were discussing earlier before we started recording. I think we have a pretty strong opinion, but a pretty concise one here that Dak is a great quarterback and definitely doesn't get the amount of respect that he deserves, especially for what he's done for the team and what he continues to do when he's out there.
I agree. Dak, people don't like to respect him the way that they should. He has broken about 2 records since the season starting alone with his passing yards. So I feel like people should really pay the man. That's the first thing. Pay the man. There's no reason why he should have the tag on him. He should be getting paid like any other quarterback. The Cowboys wouldn't be where they are without him. So Dak has to get paid.
I mean, he's averaging the most pass yards per game out of any quarterback in the NFL. That alone, and his team is 1-3.
That's crazy.
Like he's only won 1 game off of a miraculous comeback. Sorry, Falcons fans, but that comeback was beautiful, right? And that's the only game he's won so far. And he's completing 70% of his passes, so it's not like he's throwing the ball every single play and just racking up numbers. He's not stat padding. No, he's playing consistent, great football, and he just doesn't have the team around him.
Yeah, my dad doesn't like Dak Prescott, and I tell him every week, Dak's not the problem. And he's like, well, then what are we now, 1-3? Why are we 1-3? Why haven't we won a Super Bowl? You know, we've had him for 4 years, something like that. And I'm like, well, Dak's not the problem at all. What Dak Prescott, I'm not going to compare him to Patrick Mahomes because nobody should be compared to Patrick Mahomes at this point. But remember Kansas City was like 2 years ago where they would score like 55 points a game and win, but they would give up 50 points to whoever they were playing. It didn't matter who they were playing. They could be playing the Dolphins and give up 50 points.
Yeah.
The Cowboys are in the same position, except we don't have an amazing Hall of Fame level coach, and Dak is just not as good as Patrick Mahomes. Like, he's just not quite that good, but he's still phenomenal, and he is drastically improved his accuracy, obviously, because of the amount of yards he has, and he finally has the weapons on offense. Our defense just can't stop anybody. They can't stop anyone, and it's so upsetting to watch because everyone's running through us, and then they throw a bomb over the top, and there's nobody around the receivers, and we're just giving up big play after big play, and it's just painful.
And speaking of running, we don't have a running game.
Yeah.
Which is crazy because we have Zeke.
Yeah, Ezekiel is getting what, 3.5 yards per carry? He's out here walking. I mean,
can someone explain to me how the Browns basically score 50 piece on us on Sunday?
I don't think anyone wants to. I don't think
Odell sees Cowboy jerseys and goes nuts.
Yeah, I mean, it's horrible to watch. It's ridiculous.
Our defensive line is atrocious. I don't know who decided to change our scheme from, what was it, 4-3 to 3-4 or vice versa. I can't remember what it was, but for years we were 1 and then we switched it over to the other one all of a sudden. And now D Law, who just got paid, got 1 sack this season and he's making $18 million a year. And like you said, Dak is franchise tagged and he's leading the league in passing yards. Like, I don't know where our priorities were, but they got skewed somewhere because people that shouldn't have been paid have been paid. And where's Sean Lee? Sorry, I'm kind of ranting, but where is he? He's still on the team. He's just gone. He's not even on the sideline. Oh, my goodness.
And how do we let Odell score? Or who was it? Jarvis touchdown pass to Odell during the game? How do you let that happen?
I don't know.
The defense. We don't have it at all. And our players are hurt. That's another thing. So many corners were hurt. Only person we had was Diggs. And you can't rely on him. You can't rely on him the whole game. So other people got to help. Like these new players, these Rookies got to step up. That's the only way we're gonna get anywhere.
I think we should try and get a high pick this season.
Want to tank?
It's over. We're done. Our defense is too bad. Honestly, I love CD Lamb, but we probably should have drafted a defensive player. Honestly, because CD is amazing, and I love him to death because he's one of the reasons we won our one game this season. But yeah, I don't know.
One thing you can't understate is Amari Cooper. Amari Cooper's doing so good.
He is good. I love
Cooper's
Amari
a monster.
You know who I miss? Jeff Heath. He would have fixed up everything.
Heath.
We let him go to the Raiders, and now our defense is terrible. All he did was hurt people, and I miss that. We need some of that energy to hurt other people on the other team.
I think it's hilarious that the Cowboys are 1-3 and they're second in their division. I think that's beautiful.
Thankfully, we were in the worst conference or worst
Yeah.
division in the league.
Yeah, they'll still have a chance late season if they can actually turn something around. These Cowboys remind me of the Nuggets back when Alex English and Kiki Van Wee played with them. When, like, back in the 80s, they were putting up 139 points a game, but they were getting 141 scored on them. So there's just negative defense played in either of the games. The Cowboys are a high-scoring team, and Dak is putting out insane yards, but they're not doing anything with it. You can't defend. What's the point of putting up those numbers? It's like the Rockets.
Another thing is our time of possession is terrible.
Mhm.
You know, we're either scoring off a big play from Dak throwing it deep, or we're 3-and-out every single time. Like, we can't find a rhythm to consistently hand it off to Zeke.
And part of that is because Dak's been sacked so much. He gets so much pressure on him.
Our offensive line is so hurt.
Mm-hmm.
So hurt.
There's the pressure on him. Not just like I'm talking about like pressure from like the fans and the people. The pressure from the other team's defense is just ridiculous. They can't give him any space to breathe.
Yeah, in the last two games, the last possessions, Dak threw interceptions on the last plays of the game. Like, people want to blame it on Dak, but it's not his fault. It's not his fault. You can't put everything on one man. It's a team effort. When
you're already down and you're that late into a game, he has to try to make a play. He has to try to do something. You can't play safe at that point. You have to try to, put your claws to the wall and get a play, right? Like, you have to. You can't just sit back and watch the clock tick away like the Spurs are playing the Nuggets in 2018. Like, you need to finish the game. Even if it results in a turnover, you're at least trying to make that final play to win the game. And they're faulting him for that. But it's like a player tanking their efficiency to throw up a Hail Mary, It's like, it doesn't matter the efficiency points. You're trying to finish that play because you're trying to win. So if he's throwing an interception in the last minute when they're down by 4 or 3 or whatever, it's fine because he's trying to push it down the field. You can't blame him for that. You can't blame him for trying to put the team on his back.
Would you guys rather fire our head coach? What's his name? The guy from the Packers. Who do we have? Mike McCarthy.
Mike McCarthy.
Do you want to fire Mike McCarthy, or do you want to let this season play out and potentially just maybe squeeze into the playoffs for a first-round loss?
I don't think it's an issue with McCarthy. I really don't. I don't think McCarthy's not bad. He's not the best, but I don't think McCarthy's our problem.
I wish he would get angry. Every time they show him, I don't care what the score is on the sideline, he's got that mask on. He just
staring.
Yeah, he seems very even keeled. There's not much going on for him there. I want to see more urgency from the coaching staff too. I want us to go out there and want to win these games. You can see it from Dak. You can see it from all of our weapons offensively, but I'm not seeing it from everyone else on the team. And I think that's what we're really struggling with.
Because we don't have Jason Garrett's forehead vein on the sideline. Go on.
Coach Clapp.
Yeah. I mean, this season's it's been tough so far. But then again, we are 4 games into a long season. So
very true.
Exactly. With COVID withholding, this season will play out. We're not going to have a Tennessee Titans situation. The season's going to play out. And they'll be able to do something as long as Ezekiel Elliott steps up and the defense steps up. We're fine because Dak and the receivers are doing good. You were talking about how you didn't want to draft CeeDee Lamb. Right?
No, I did want to draft CeeDee Lamb, but looking at it now,
we should have drafted a defender, right?
Yes.
CeeDee Lamb is doing amazing. That kid's good. That kid's phenomenal, right? Our receivers aren't our problem. Our defense is our problem. So our defense and Ezekiel Elliott. So all we got to do is wait for them. And if they don't show up, Gotta wait for next year.
Hopefully they figure it out. I mean, we got what is this, a bye week we got coming up?
I believe so.
So our next game is until Cardinals at, I don't know, I think it's like the 19th or something like that. So they got time to figure things out.
We play the Giants this week.
Oh, just kidding. All right. So yeah.
You play the Giants.
Well, no better test than going up against our division rivals who we hate the most.
Mm-hmm. Jason Garrett.
Yeah, Giants game.
And they're 0-4. So
we can't stop Danny Dimes.
This
This
is a proving week. This is a week to prove that we actually have it, that the Cowboys have it.
Who knew our best player on defense would be Aldon Smith, who hasn't played in 6 years or 5 years, rather. He is playing out of his mind, and everyone else looks like they're kind of walking around out there waiting for the guy to trip when they should be making a tackle.
Hey, at least the Cowboys aren't the Giants. Their leading rusher is their quarterback with 140 yards.
Yeah, we do play the Giants next week, but you know how the Giants are. They always like to play hard when they play us. Don't do this against any other team, but when it comes to the Cowboys, they want to act like they've been doing this all season. But I got confidence in this. As long as Zeke runs the ball like he's the top running back in the game, I feel like it should be a dub easily.
If we lose to offensive coordinator Jason Garrett, I'm gonna be very upset.
And do we know, is it at MetLife or where's it at? Are we at home?
We're at home.
It's at AT&T.
Ooh.
So this should be a win on the record. By all means, by every single point of view, this should be a win on the record.
Yeah. If it's not, I will be hemorrhaging and losing my mind, and we will hear about it next week.
Thank you all for listening to Claws to the Walls podcast. I'm Kennedy Moore.
I'm Omar Bartra.
I'm Ethan Quintero.
I'm Quentin Moreno.
Please be sure to follow us on all of our social media at KCSW Sports on Twitter, Instagram, and on YouTube.
And make sure to tune in to us on 89.9 FM.